Internet, change my mind. Sami Zayn has missed the window to ever become a world champion. I think the door closed, Lauren, when Triple H decided it was more important to have a Cody Rhodes win King of the Ring than it was for Sami Zayn to be King of the Ring. Because I think Sami Zayn was the better choice to win King of the Ring. He should have gone on to fight Gunther at SummerSlam, and he should have won that title. It would have been a very big feel-good moment. But I think it's a huge indictment against Jey Uso and Sami Zayn that Triple H chose to waste Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton with zero buildup instead of what I think was a more compelling story if that championship match at Night of Champions would have been Jey Uso versus Sami Zayn. To me, from a compelling storytelling point of view, I think it would have been better. Now, I get when we go to Saudi Arabia, they want the best of the best, the biggest names. Whether it fucks with story or not, that's what they want. But the better story would have been to do Sami Zayn and Jey Uso. And by Triple H foregoing that, I think it kind of tells you where he places Sami Zayn. He's a mid-card champion guy. And I really think that we're going to see here in the future for like guys like Sami Zayn and LA Knight, Jey Uso is going to be used as a scapegoat for why these guys can't be a world champion. Well, if Jey Uso, who was the most over guy in the company with the yeets and the crowd, if he can't be champion, then how could LA Knight be champion? How could Sami Zayn be champion? And I think that's so unfair. But I think Sami Zayn is a guy who got very hot in a very short amount of time, especially coming out of the bloodline. He got a tag team title run, and he was able to kind of keep that run together when he beat Gunther, and then he kind of kept it together when they started playing with the story of Sami Zayn needs to be champion. And then all of a sudden that's just stopped. They're not talking like that anymore. And so when I look at the bigger picture of WWE, I don't see where Sami Zayn falls in the line now, right? Because Bron Breaker is the next big guy, okay? Bron Breaker is the next guy who's going to get a girthy title run with the World Heavyweight Championship. I don't think at this point now that they've kind of rebuilt Gunther, I don't think Gunther's going to lose the title to another underdog.
Yeah.
They saw the damage that losing to Jey Uso did to Gunther, and they panicked and they said, man, we gotta rectify what we did wrong at WrestleMania. This damaged Gunther. They're chanting, you tapped out. They're just like the crowd has turned on Gunther. We got to make him strong again. So I don't see a world where they ever have Sami Zayn, who is a well-known underdog, coming back and beating a Gunther again. It just, to me, Sami Zayn's a guy who has to defy all odds to become world champion, and I don't think that he'll do it against Gunther. I don't think he'll do it against Seth Rollins, who I think is your next world champion. And he's not going to do it against Bron Breaker, who's going to be world champion after that for a very long time. When you start looking at the line of succession, right? I have LA Knight, who I would book in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But like even then, I don't know where these guys fit in. I just don't see. I think one of the problems is you start talking about like Sami Zayn and LA Knight when they're 40-year-old plus. I think Triple H starts to get a little bit nervous. I think TKO gets a little bit nervous about building LA Knight into this megastar, which he is, but like putting the title and the company on him when the guy's 40-something years old, it's hard to justify. Same with Sami Zayn, who's 40 years old. It's hard to justify a guy who's 40 years old, who's never been a world champion. It's hard to justify all of a sudden this underdog winning the title. Could he be transitional? I believe there's a world where somehow Sami gets his hands on a title and he's a champion for a month or two. Almost like Jey Uso, but I just think with the failed experiment of Jey Uso, I find it really hard to believe that they're going to do that experiment again.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like I said, they've stopped playing the story beats. For a long time, they were running the story almost like Sami has to be champion. It's his destiny. It's his future. He has to be world champion. And now Sami's once again part of a Super Friends. Sami is in this weird story with Karrion Kross, who I think is a dark horse as well to sneak into the world heavyweight title picture because he is a guy that fits that mold more, right? He's not an underdog. He's a bigger guy with a good gimmick. So I think it's when you look at this, it's weird to me. You just, the way you look at wrestling is you have to look and start slotting guys into titles and saying what makes sense. And like I said, Bron Breaker, Seth Rollins, Gunther, those are your title guys right now. I just don't see Sami Zayn being a champion. And to be honest with you, when I look at, like, because he's Monday Night Raw, right? That's the Monday Night Raw title. That's the guy that goes on the poster. That's the guy that when you open up Netflix, and I believe Netflix is paranoid about ratings, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're a streaming service, you have to be. When you're paying for WWE, so when you open up Netflix and there's that title graphic card, right? Who are the faces that you want front and center? Well, Gunther's a big guy, right? You want Rhea Ripley. Yeah. You want Seth Rollins. I don't think you want Sami Zayn in the middle of that poster. I just really don't. I don't ever think that they want Sami Zayn holding that title in the middle of that poster for any kind of long term. And that's unfair. I call it bullshit, but unfortunately this is the way that Netflix and WWE
from a casual
book
person,
now.
Like the time I think was like right after all the Uzi stuff. Would have been like the most
Yes.
exciting time for me to see him.
No, I agree. He comedically and he was so likable that he got to a point where he had the title match. Unfortunately, a lot of these guys are going to fall short. It's funny. It's the same thing in basketball, right? If you look at like Michael Jordan, he kept guys like Karl Malone and Charles Barkley from winning championships. If you look at other sports like football, Tom Brady did it. Roman Reigns, there's going to be a revisionist history when we look back where we're going to go, there's a lot of guys who could have been WWE champion, like Drew McIntyre, Sami Zayn, that just unfortunately fell victim to needing to be part of Roman Reigns' story. Because there was a time where we were in Canada, it was Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns. The crowd was fucking hot, but that couldn't be the guy to beat Roman Reigns.
Nope.
So they just couldn't pull the trigger, and I think that's when his stock was the highest. I think we were at the tail end coming into Night of Champions of where I thought Sami Zayn could be a champion, and he's not. And like I said, I don't think at this point, after the Jey Uso failed experiment, they don't want Sami Zayn on that poster holding that title. Internet, if you think differently, you can change my mind.